Everyone, and welcome back to Season 2, Episode 1 of the VFX Nomads podcast. Sorry we have not posted in the last couple months. We've been schedule issues and a little bit of holidays and this and that. The summer was very nice. And while we were out, Adrian, you went to the Digital Worlds Conference in Spain. Is that right?
Yes, that was very fun.
And something interesting happened to you. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, every year, it's my second year there, but so far 2 years to, seasons of interesting things happening. But this year I did like a conference on the essence of digital compositing. So I was covering like what compositing actually is and what it's not. And it was fun. Yeah, I met so many nice people there, among whom there was like the CTO of Technicolor,
That's crazy.
CCO of ILM, Senior Vice President of like Lucasfilm, like super weird combinations of like amazing people for some reason.
Wow.
Yeah.
Any extensive conversations with these?
Yeah, it was pretty.
We need some gossip, Adrian. G's digging for gossip. We need some juicy gossip on the podcast.
Yeah, we literally had like lunch one day, and I was like, "Am I having lunch with these people?" And yeah,
I think it says a lot of like Adrian is like the most unknown person at the table. It's like these guys are like these huge mega stars.
Man, and Rob Brito, I'm like such a big fan of him.
Didn't you say something about like Apple computers or something in the WhatsApp group? You said how they were talking about how Apple computers or something start with a number in the top left. What was it again?
Man, I was completely amazed of the level of geekiness in those conversations. I was like just looking at them and like, well, these people know a lot. There were like some conversations about like design thinking and how Apple does things properly and their design and their design of their code as well. And I don't know, some unexpected learnings. But yeah, pretty
cool,
nice.
Man. Very cool, very cool.
Nice.
And they learned for sure about Galician food, which is so good.
Good.
So, yeah.
So the conference is in Spain?
Yes, so it's in Coruña, so it's Galicia in the northwest.
Okay.
It happens in July every year. For some reason, I didn't go in my first 10 years of career. And then I'm like, what did I miss? And all my colleagues were going every year and telling me to go. And yeah, super nice. I would really recommend that you guys come at some point.
The name in Spanish is like Mundo or something, right?
Mundos Digitales, so like the digital world, something like that.
Nice. It's cool because like in Filipino, Mundo also means world.
Oh, cool.
Well,
that probably comes
basically
from Spanish, right?
I wonder.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Language podcast.
Yeah.
They didn't have like someone super talented, I mean, like with decades of experience coming every year from other countries. So
Yeah, it's exactly how I feel about FMX. I missed it this year, but I feel like it's something I want to go to all the time, just for the kind of relationships that you're building and the fun that you're having there. It's like it's more than just like a lot of learning about some geeky stuff or seeing a show reel or something. It's just like interesting to network with people and have fun.
When also you just catch up with everyone you worked with previously, right? Because it's such a small industry. Chances are there's going to be a ton of people that you've worked with that you're just going to bump into you didn't know were there. It's a bit like how Christmas, everyone's off. It's the best time to meet everyone because everyone you know is on holiday. All these conferences end up being like that, right? You end up just catching up with people half the time.
Yeah.
It's, out of interest, Adrian, like how's the Spanish... Like, do you think it's growing, the Spanish VFX industry? Like, do you think that conference is getting bigger because it's growing, or
yes, totally. Like
it is.
Every year, it's so this year I think it was like 1,600 people there, but it's getting bigger every year. There were like 4 conferences in parallel at every moment through like 4 days or something like that. It feels a lot like FMX, just a slightly smaller version, but same mood. I think FMX is like the European thing where all the countries from Europe go there.
Yeah.
Mundos Digitales is the same thing, but for Spain. So all the Spanish companies and students and everything meet there once a year.
Is this also from people from South America flying in? Or is it like the Spanish-speaking world, or is it mostly just Spain for now?
No, there's people from... And many people from Europe, like there's like live translation on some Spanish conferences. Some are in English as well. But for the rest, it feels like very similar to FMX, like quite student oriented and more about like the catching up. It's not that much of developments like SIGGRAPH or stuff like that. It's more.
And I guess it's more than just VFX, because of the digital worlds, it could mean basically anything. It could be in 3D, it could be in virtual reality, it could mean lots of.
Yes, this year, they're pretty focused on VFX and animation, but they're doing a lot of virtual production as well and video games. So that's kind of their realm, I think.
Nice. Super cool. Was there any mention of AI? Or was it like, we're not going to talk about AI the whole conference and all this stuff?
I think there was
stuff I'm saying.
I think there was at least one or two conferences where there was not a mention of AI. It was very.
Was there just a sign that said AI with a circle and a slash through it?
Exactly. You get carried out if any mention.
No, there was like a lot of conversation about AI, and it was pretty interesting. Yeah, I also included some AI stuff in my thing, but it was like very. So, let's say there's like a virtual production room, roughly, not room, but like a thread of stuff happening. Then there's the VFX. Then there's animation, and then there's AI. So that's like those four things kind of always happening.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's interesting seeing the AI stuff develop, I think. It's we're using it on a few things, and like studios seem to be very hesitant about companies using it. And actually, I think what may happen going forward is like models get licensed so that, because you have to now state what models you use if you do use AI and this stuff, and then potentially provide the data set that's been trained. So it's kind of, it feels like there's a bit more maturity around AI when it comes to the clients and companies now. Like there's actually a bit of a workflow, if that makes sense, rather than just it being Wild Westy. I don't know, you guys finding that as well?
No, same here. Like I've been forwarded to the category a few times because we have some, I forget, we had something like face swapping or something very recently, and people were sending links to like how to do stuff through some model in the category.
Yeah. It's good. Not all of those category models are allowed to be used commercially, though. That's the only thing you need to check for. But we used the ModNet one a few times, I think, which is the human map cutout one, which is very useful. It's not great, but it can if you're okay just blurring the edges on stuff, you can get by, if that makes sense, if it's simple stuff. But it's been cool seeing it develop. It's
cool seeing the new stuff that's coming out as well, like this motion brush thing. Have you seen that?
Motion brush?
Yeah, it's kind of like Runway, but you kind of like draw an arrow. Like if you have an image of a cat, you can like draw an arrow, and then the cat will follow the path of the arrow.
That's cool. It just slides on the screen, or it looks like it's walking.
It just translates.
Yeah, exactly.
No, like it gathers its energy and then does the squash and stretch.
That's amazing. Yeah,
in the demo, at least. I haven't tried it.
This is the thing with the demos, right? They always look better than they're actually using. And that's the thing, I think. Too many people are quick to react when they see a demo, thinking it's game over. And then, I don't know, it's very, very different, I think, using these in real life and with productions.
Yeah, I think people have to start preparing to use them, even if they're not currently allowed. You can't wait until it gets a green light. And then somebody made the point to me that it might be a per project thing that it's greenlit for. So it's good to have the tool developed, but then the production needs to flag the green light and then you can use it. But just to wait for an overall blanket statement of we can use this now might never happen. It might just be per project or something.
And it's a model thing. That's the thing. It's all down to the model and what the model's trained on. And maybe Netflix, right, would license a model. So they pay for the model, and then all of their vendors can then use that model on their productions, right? So they've paid off the people whose data's in the data set. So it's, it's going to be interesting seeing how this progresses. The Comfy UI stuff in Nuke's pretty sick. And the live portrait stuff and all of this, I can't wait to an in-paint in Nuke with the Comfy UI stuff. Yeah. It's just going to be so good. But yeah, it's a bit Wild Westy still, right? It's still not getting used to the extent that you could use it for, I guess.
I see the potential is very clear. And we are now reaching dangerously a point where it's going to be very usable very soon for a number of things. The quality of depth estimation, temporally consistent depth estimation, matting, all of that is becoming so much better.
Too.
Yeah, all of that stuff is becoming so much better. And I can see how just what you were saying, Tony, that something like Comfy UI, which is a nodal workflow, that's the power because it doesn't depend on a specific model. Same as Nuke, same as Houdini. Like those are things that I can see how they can survive evolution, or more than survive, like drive it. And I can totally
the dam
see
is going to break. I think at some point it's going to be like everyone's waiting, and then it's just going to be a flood of like because they already have the comfy UI tools and Nuke. Some of them, I think there's more than one, but imagine some of that gets more standardized, or even if the Foundry somehow jumps on that or something, and suddenly it just becomes integrated with our current workflow.
Adobe in particular is really killing it, especially with like After Effects, how they're integrating the tools.
Yeah. But I think even some of their models, right? It's like they do the same thing where they're like, yeah, well, we're not responsible for if you get sued by this.
Yeah, of course.
That's kind of the same kind of thing.
It's going to be interesting. I don't know. I mean, we used the depth generator one on a show, which was very, very useful, but it was still just flickering like crazy. And you have to pre-warn them and go, if we go down this road, you just got to be prepared that like it's very hard to fix this. It's a black box, right? You throw in the thing. Yes, you can adjust. You can adjust obviously the image going in, and you can adjust the image coming out. But it's like this weird black box in the middle that is very hard to control. So it's very hard to refine the output of this kind of thing. So that depth generator was really useful, but it saved us a ton of roto. But it's going to be interesting.
I reckon that control factor is something that's going to be refined within the next year or two.
Yeah, but it's hard. It's always a black box though, right? Like it's always bouncing around in this black box, and then something's being spat out the other end. There's only so much you can adjust. Yeah, that's true.
But the amount of control is getting exponentially higher for many models. So that's pretty wild to see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Out of interest, do you think there's any crossover between AI and the LED panel stuff? Like, do you think there's any crossover with that? So like you would put basic boxes on the screen that then you would do a image to image kind of or video to video thing on afterwards or something?
I would even dare to say not just LED panels, but anything. Like I can imagine like a future shoot being just a very cheap layout of boxes and things, and then it just being replaced. Like imagine you have to like create a huge set extension with a castle, and then there's some columns, and then there's some, I don't know, whatever. And you manage to build something that looks roughly similar. The amount, like the spill and the colors are roughly the same. And then you have a good enough matting, tracking, even the data acquisition part, like the getting the camera, the match move, the IBL map, like getting all of that. I think that's on the path of becoming more automated. And if you have all of that streamlined in a pipeline, then, and if the AI just mats everything out, then what's the reason
then
not
you
to
go from on-set to final?
No, more than that, I can see it like you get the plate, you get all the extra information that you're gathering on the shoot, and then with the help of different models that are licensed, that are legal, that everything's streamlined and pipeline ready, then you just get a comp of just the same background that is being used in many other shots. And that background, maybe that needs a lot of artist work. Maybe then everything needs refinement. Then all the complex tasks need comp work on top. But like all the basic matting and camera tracking and depth estimation and all of that, I can see how this, like, there's a huge potential for saving on that. And that's stupid. I mean, not stupid work, but that's work that it's completely, like, you can specify the instructions to do that to a human. Yeah. So
it's either correct or it isn't, basically. It's a 1 or 0 rather than a gray area. I mean, back in the day when I was on The Martian, we would try and use the disparity maps to key. So you obviously, you could use them to key in depth, right? And if your depth generator is good enough with this thing, you can key in depth, basically, right? You could do a whole ton of that. So it's, I don't know, workflows and pipelines are going to nudge, I guess, slightly, even with these kind of simple tools.
So do you think we'll start seeing faster turnaround of making films from like script to post?
I think so.
I mean, if they need less, that's a good question. Like,
not in every situation for sure, but in some situations, 100%.
You know what? Actually, I think will speed up more personally. Like, if I was a film studio, and let's say, because I think Runway just did a deal with, I can't remember who it was now, like Lionsgate.
Yeah, Lionsgate.
What I would do if I was a film company is I would use these to basically make loads of fake trailers for various different films, and then just release them, see which one goes viral, and then that's the one you make, right? And I think it's going to help a lot more as well with like previs as well, because you can actually test a film now and it not be like grayscale stuff everywhere, right? Like you can test it and it looks a bit closer. So maybe there's less chance of there being kind of re-edits last minute because something didn't test very well, which I think would make the process more efficient, right? Like that would make it way more efficient in itself. So, no.
When did the Lionsgate runway deal go down?
Just this
It was
week.
like a couple of days ago. I mean, it probably happened ages ago, but I saw it a couple of days ago.
Yeah. Dang.
Yeah.
And the video-to-video thing, I think, is the craziest thing I've seen in the last week. So those people making like previs with super low poly stuff and shooting, like filming themselves with some guns or whatever, and then they turning it into some sci-fi super.
But dude, we were saying this like 5 months ago on this podcast. We're like, just take Unreal and then run it through a video-to-video thing, and like that's the quickest way. Like it makes so much sense to do that. It's a no-brainer. It's I don't know. I'm still interested to see where it goes because personally, and I've had a bit of pushback on this, but I spoke to a few people. I actually think that this stuff isn't good for big film companies. Like AI stuff isn't good for them at all because they're now just got, at the moment, their moat is the fact they've got IP. So they've got like Spider-Man or Marvel or whatever, so they can legally make stuff like that. And their moat is they can afford big VFX studios to work on big VFX shots. The minute that anyone can use AI, now all the YouTubers can now make a film that looks as good, let's say, as this. So actually, I don't think it's in their favor to have AI progress because they're just shooting themselves in the foot, basically.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
You asked the question. You asked the question, will it get faster? I think probably, I'm not sure about speed, but probably more independent, like lower budget people will be able to enter the race of making these films because of the workflows. They'll be able to get to an end result that's as good or near approaching that good but right now, like with the film studios, it's kind of like gatekeeping. It's like, oh, you need to have an ARRI Alexa camera and you need to have a giant CG team and all this stuff. But maybe that'll close the gap with independent filmmakers and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that plus, for example, Adrian just described how something potentially is going to have like layout and camera solving and tracking and all that stuff. Like just kind of, if it's planned for it in advance, then maybe you skip a bunch of steps. Skipping a bunch of steps means all of the time it took to do those things just condensed into one. So if this is being condensed, are other parts of it being condensed as well? And is the result just, if it takes this long to make a film, does it then take this long to make a film?
I think certain jobs will move to different departments, but I can see certain things moving into comp, maybe that wouldn't have otherwise been done in comp, potentially. I don't know. It's interesting. I think Face Tracker, actually, with AI stuff, Face Tracker becomes even more useful, in my opinion, because being able to like stabilize faces and then do a bunch of AI like image stuff on top in comp is very useful. I think that's going to be used more on that kind of stuff.
It's definitely a good point that like if film studios are shooting themselves in the foot, but I also think it kind of presents a double-edged sword because they have to know and understand and be able to use it. It's like us. We have to know and understand and be able to use the technology. If not, we get left behind.
Yeah. And one thing big studios have is a lot of owned footage. So one thing they can
data sets.
Yeah, they can create like their own models, which are trained on amazing data that others do not have the access to.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. You search you take like Stable Diffusion and then just search like June or whatever, and it comes up with like a still from June. It's like, okay, it's but I hear you. I guess legally they'd be allowed to use that stuff.
Well, apparently there's been a huge issue where Google, specifically Google, I'm not sure about other search engines, but it's being contaminated by AI outputs. So it's sort of flood. So if you type in like a tree in the desert or something, like there's a high likelihood that some of those results are going to be AI. And going forward, it's a higher likelihood that 80% of them are going to be AI or something. It was just somebody was mentioning it. It's just like you're going to get some, and if there's too many, then the AI will train itself on the output and start to degrade. So,
well, they're making like synthetic data sets, right? Like a lot of what Google and they're all doing it. They're using Unreal to make data sets because they're easier to tag and you can generate stuff exactly what you want, right? Like you could film a walk cycle from loads of different angles and run that through. And actually, if you look at the Sora videos that they made, the ones with like the cars driving and stuff, it looks closer to like an Unreal Engine render than real life. And because they're using that for a whole bunch of stuff. So, yeah, you're starting to use that more as well.
Also, do not forget that the AI that chooses whether an image is AI or not is getting a lot better. Like, I was like super mind blown with OpenAI's like the O1 model, the one that they released like a preview in the last week. So good, man. And all it does is it stops to think about stuff before giving you an answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can like reason and things like this.
Yeah. So the inference time. So the normal, the previous models, like the moment it has to answer, then it just guesses the next most possible like chunk of words, and then it just does it like that instantly. Not this one. This one like internally does something, splits the work into different steps, then thinks about each of them. If it tries, if it's wrong, then it does it again, and then it gives you a super thought of answer. And it can include like math operations.
It tells you what it's thinking about as
yes.
it's thinking about it.
It sends the question to
really
MIT,
great.
and there's some guy in a corner like
It's just a team of hungry interns.
like new message. Think about that.
Have you guys used it for coding yet? I've been using it. Like I made a tool and I used it, and literally I uploaded a UI I knocked up in Photoshop and was like, make the tool in PySide and make it look like this. And it kicks it out. It's nuts. It's actually crazy. It's so good.
That's using O1 Preview or the O1 Mini?
No, I use Claude Sonnet. I'm finding that to be better for coding stuff. Oh, it's another one.
Sonnet.
It's by I can't remember the company now, but I'm finding that's
Anthropic, right?
Yeah, exactly. That seems to be better for and also because I'm a bit cheap, I'm not paying for any of this, so I'm literally like I run out of my credits on Claude Sonnet and then I copy everything and put it into ChatGPT. Like,
free credits here.
Exactly, but ChatGPT was really bad. But honestly, I literally uploaded a UI. It made the PySide panel that pops up.
Wow.
It did everything. It's honestly, try it out. It's insane.
Wow. Okay.
It's really good for problem solving stuff. Like if you're stuck on, you could just, hey, my code is erroring. Why is it erroring? And it just goes through and tries to figure out why, give you the answer, what to change, or explain it better. It's pretty good.
I think that was one of the first things we talked about on episode 1 of our podcast.
Yeah.
What ChatGPT?
Just using GPT to debug our Python scripts.
I don't know, it's got nuts that you can upload like an image of what you want the UI to like. It was insane.
That's crazy.
Like a drawing or something.
But it's also like starting to be able to put out 3D renders and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like 3D models that are like have a texture or something? Yeah, some of them are.
Man, I cannot live without ChatGPT anymore. Like I'm paying for it.
I found out recently that I'm dependent on it because I canceled my membership last month.
I canceled it this month.
And I restored it like a week ago.
Whoa!
I'm gonna
what are
hold
you
out.
using it for?
I heard our news article that OpenAI was going to start charging like $1,000 a month or something, and I was like, what? And it was like some experimental model, right? But then the thought crossed my mind, like, oh, what if they like do something without telling me? I'm going to cancel my membership, so I like knee jerked canceled it, and I was like, let's see, because I don't always use it, so I think I can get away with the lower model of it. But let's see if I really can't, and then I'll just do what you did and reinstate it at some point.
Yeah, you need a bank account, a bank account that has 20 euros, and then you're safe.
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
There you go. Cayman Islands bank account with 20 euros.
What are the ways you've used it? I guess VFX related ways you've been using it. Then you guys.
I've been making icons for nuke tools.
I guess it's cheaper than Photoshop, so fair play.
I was just like, let's see if this thing can make an icon for me, and I was like, I started making them, and it's great. It's somehow, I think the newer models are able to do iconography, and I know it's like, I should do it the proper way, but instead of having no icon, you can have at least something, and then it's like a 20 pixel thing. But yeah, I've been playing around with that to see if there's any that I can save for some tools that either I've made or whatever, to just have something special. I know Adrian makes his own icons by hand, sculpts it out of a rock or something, but I'm just going to use ChatGPT.
Adrian does his icons like Bob Ross. He's there with a paintbrush.
Dude, Adrian is crazy, man.
He has an afro wig.
Yeah.
If you're not paying attention, you'll think that it's an icon that comes default in Nuke, and then you realize that Adrian made it himself because he just took an existing icon and adjusted it. It's pretty funny.
And I started with those thanks to a pack that I think it was shared by Victor Perez at some point. It was like a Photoshop file with the default colors from the Nuke icons and everything, and that was super helpful.
Now that's on Nukepedia, I think. It's like a color palette Nuke or something like that.
Yeah, it comes with like the layer styles with the drop shadow and all of those things. So it's
what? That's pretty cool.
It's very nice.
So, Adrian, what have you been using ChatGPT for? VFX related, obviously.
VFX related. I cannot not use it for. Correcting any text that I write, like especially with clients, like the most important stuff to send. Like, I really like writing myself and making sure all the text is nice. But yeah, I can't avoid like just using it for improving some things here and there. Data, like any sort of data that I have, and I want something extracted out of the data. There's so many things that at first I wouldn't think ChatGPT would help me with that, and it does. And outside of VFX, of course, I use it for every single decision I have to make for everything. And right now, like I'm, as last time, I'm still working on the home renovation for an apartment, and there's so many things you need to learn if you want to do it properly, and like so many things, material for the floor, brands for, I don't know, showers, every single thing. It's so good, and you can create your own GPT. I have like my own like Adrian's apartment console or something like that, and then it knows like my priorities. It knows the premises for the flat, like what I value and what I do not value, the kind of palette that I like, and that I like, quality, technology, like all of those things. It just knows it. So then I can just open a new conversation with my apartment counselor, and then any single quick question, then they will know it will know a lot of context about what it needs in order to answer.
I bet your builder fucking hates you though, because he's just like, you're just like, you need to talk to my ChatGPT. So you can, I can't make a decision. Talk to my phone.
Yes, but like thanks to it, I discovered like there's decentralized ventilation systems, and I just was going very deep into that, and I was going to the O1 preview, like the very smart one. Like I'm using it a lot right now. Like I was asking, because let me share the story quickly. So I have a small pet peeve, which is TV too high on the wall. It's annoying.
Yeah. There's like a whole Reddit based on that as well.
TV too high on the wall? What is that?
Yeah. So like TV's like way too high above your eye line. Yeah. You'd have to look up, and it's a whole Reddit thing.
So that TV behind Josh, that's probably very good.
That seems like a pretty good TV placement.
The thing is, so ideally it has to be at eye height when you are sitting on the couch. And the thing is, on the apartment I'm moving to, it has a chimney, a fireplace. So I want to keep that fireplace because it's nice to see the fire. But that kind of means you have to put the TV on top of that, and then it's too high. So I was asking ChatGPT, like, if I'm like this distance from the wall, and it's this variables, and then the chimney is this high, and is it going to be a comfortable watching height for the TV? And then the normal one was like, no, it's not good, and it was incorrect because of the calculations. And then the new one, man, it was thinking about like the angles and the cosine and the tangent and looking at so many things. And then it gave me such a like thorough answer for how it's probably good.
The thing is, Adrian, you're going to do all this. You're going to put your TV in, and then that TV is going to set alight because it's too close to the fireplace within the first week, I reckon.
Don't melt your TV.
Don't worry.
Will my TV melt?
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, man.
ChatGPT said I should put it right in front of the fire. That's the
in the fire.
Angle. Yeah. Exactly.
It's definitely, the new one has definitely helped me improve on just putting everything in one prompt versus doing something, getting feedback, doing something. Mostly because it just takes a while to think. And I don't want to wait for it to constantly think.
Actually, that's a good point. That is a good point. Something I was doing with the coding thing is you say, give me the complete code back, because otherwise it only gives you the bit it changes. And they're like, I'm going to use one of my 5 free credits. So you say, give me all of the code with this change in. Otherwise, you end up doing use too many.
I feel like Adrian just invented like a villain who, like, Two-Face like flipped a coin for all of his decisions. It's like the new villain just has ChatGPT. Can you weigh the value of this man's life?
But he's still
making all of his life decisions, all of his crimes.
Gives you one of these.
Interior design. Yeah, exactly. Adrian's interior design ChatGPT says no. That's what a good use case, though, man. I mean, to be honest, it is crazy how much of your life, you can actually make like way more. I feel like it's an unfair advantage if you do start using this stuff, like even just for Nuke alone, like for little TCL expressions and things.
Oh yeah,
it's a huge advantage, and people are really underestimated. I think too many people are like so black and white with this stuff, like I use it or I don't. Whereas actually you could just use it for a few things like we're doing. So super cool.
I think the black and white mindedness is kind of the first-ness that gets left behind whenever there's a revolution.
This is true. Well, that's very deep.
I don't use it. It uses me.
Oh, wow. That's the only reason why Adrian's here today, because ChatGPT said that he should probably turn up.
We're actually talking to an avatar of Adrian.
It's just virtual Adrian.
So how's it? Oh yeah, go for it.
I was just gonna kind of close off on saying like I don't know if there's so many GPT models. I mean, didn't Apple just come up with like Apple Intelligence or something that are going to be default on phones, and Google's got Gemini, I think, and maybe Microsoft has another one.
Microsoft's got their Copilot as well.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, I guess one of the reasons I like cancel the subscription is I'm hoping that the level of GPT that I need will be filled in by things that I'll have by default in the future. I don't know if that's a reasonable thing. Like, I don't know if the cost of whatever, $25 a month or whatever it is for ChatGPT is worth the price soon. Like, I think maybe I could get the same thing from freer models in the near future. But maybe Adrian, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe the reason one will be better than all of them. But I don't think I need super complex things at the moment. So I'm not sure if I'll need.
And
first of all, sorry. It's going to be like TV subscriptions in the future. Like you want Hulu, you want HBO, you want this.
Yeah, you like try them all out.
You get the bundle that just has all of them.
Yeah, we need the GPT bundle.
You can get. I was playing with Llama, which is like the Facebook free one, and you can use a thing called LM Studio on your desktop just to load in a model and run it locally, which is cool. It's not quite as quick and it's not as good, but you can run these things locally. Which obviously, for certain things, you're going to need to do, right? Because like, do you really want your data training their thing on the back end if you're asking it certain questions? Because again, there's a whole bunch of like one of the big use cases. I think Adrian, we spoke about this before. Potentially, is like you take all the text, the transcription from dailies, and then have it pipe it into this thing. And now an artist can say, what were the notes on this shot? And it would just give the bullet points and the notes, right? Like that's such a cool use case, but you can't use it for that because obviously you don't want to be like, oh, and then this villain dies in this scene. And then it's trained OpenAI's.
Well, even like Google transcribing meetings. And then like you can feed that transcription and be like, can you summarize the meeting? Or it gives you an instant summary or something. I mean, there's so many of these use cases of these things. The world is getting more, it's changing.
It's fun. I would say to people that they should just play around with this stuff, right? Like, I think all of us are just playing around, not taking it too seriously. It's fun just watching a few tutorials and just spending 20 minutes experimenting, basically. And I'd suggest everyone do it. It's good stuff.
I need to download the Comfy UI.
Interesting
I need to try that out. I've done it yet.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting that like the next wave is like going to be about agents because it makes me think of the Matrix.
Just a guy with the sunglasses and the suit on.
But that is like the purpose of the agents in the Matrix. They are like things that were originally meant to carry out one specific task.
Yeah, like every person was a program, right, to like do one thing.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Or a multitude of ones within like a certain theme. But I do like having various GPTs that you get when you pay for GPT. It's one of the reasons why I restored my membership as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Apple Intelligence will use GPT from OpenAI for complex things.
Right.
Well, it's quite interesting because even if you're trying to avoid these things, like for example, you've never used ChatGPT, eventually, I mean, all of the phone advertisements now are just like, yeah, Apple Intelligence, all this stuff. And it's going to be on your phone. And obviously everyone's going to use it. Although Siri was out for 10 years or something. I think the only time I ever use Siri is to make a timer. I said, Siri, set a timer for 10 minutes, something like that. And if anybody's phone just went off, I apologize.
And it was all oversold as well at the start, right? They were like, oh, this thing's going to be your personal assistant.
Yeah, like they made it sound like ChatGPT, but it wasn't at all. And I barely use it. Like I use it to set an alarm every once in a while, and that's about it. Like,
yeah. It's going to be
So
interesting.
is the next phase going to be having, instead of for Apple products, is that the marketing now that it's going to be like an LLM instead of Siri?
Oh, yeah. It's called Apple Intel. It was supposed to roll out, but maybe they were still working on it. So apparently they just made the new iPhone, and it should have come out, I guess, but they're keeping it for a few months. So in later this year or maybe in early next year, they're gonna like suddenly have Apple Intelligence on every iPhone, basically.
And
Every
some
device.
company.
Oh, it'll be like an iOS kind of.
Yeah, it's
update?
built in.
Not
Like
a-
Siri is. I think they're just beefing up Siri, basically.
I mean, and then basically, if anything's super complex, right, it's sending it, as Adrian said, like to OpenAI is ChatGPT or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think it's a very well thought thing. Like you get through the last years, like iPhones that are so powerful for a smartphone. It's like, why are you making something that is so much more capable than opening WhatsApp? You know? And suddenly now they are able to locally run some AI model, LLM, whatever, and do things locally. That suddenly enables like a lot of privacy to be kept in your in your thing, and then that allows for that to access your private data, calendars, emails, like all of that you would not trust, like OpenAI, for example, to open. But then if a lot of that can be done locally on your device, and then only some specific requests, it's like, you want us to send this question to OpenAI? Maybe they can answer better. Then I think that's a short-term, very good combination.
Cool idea.
Just needs to come. It's like not coming to Spain probably until like 2026, or I don't know.
I've accepted that my data is just out there now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's called open AI.
Yeah.
All these personal questions. I'm going to ask ChatGPT what G thinks of various
What
things.
is G's social security number?
What is G's workout routine? Where will G be on Saturday, the 25th
Predict.
of October?
And
You're
it'll
going to get a
tell
bunch
you.
of students giving you CVs, man. They're going to find out where you are on a certain date with ChatGPT.
No.
And then...
While I'm at the beach, they're just going to run up.
But
Exactly. I mean, speaking of like, let's move back to the VFX. Like, how's everyone finding? Are you guys finding the VFX industry is picking up a little bit? Is it about the same as when we last?
I think it's picking up a bit. Like, if I have to make an analogy, the bigger studios are becoming fuller, which is spilling over onto the smaller studios and the mid-sized studios. Not to the extent that it was before, but certainly you see more projects being greenlit. I think there's obviously different parts of the world. I mean, kind of the elephant in the world is that Montreal is sort of going downhill because of the subsidies thing but then at the same time, Sydney or Australia in general is having this huge boom, and they've made I think DNEG and ILM, I believe, have made studios there, as well as Weta.
Yep,
I mean, they had one before,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's a boom. So it's sort of like goes down one place, goes up in another place. You know, I guess you can't have it all the time around the world always, but definitely there's some things moving. There's some dominoes falling. Like,
Something interesting I'm seeing is many films are like not small films, like medium to large films. Mostly medium are getting, but medium is like 100 million or 50 million, something like that. So they're getting shot in like Ireland, Spain, France, Italy. Like they're coming to many countries that traditionally those countries do not do those kinds of films. That's probably due to the what you were mentioning in Montreal, but also the US situation, and that's interesting. Like I still didn't see the work picking up as much as ideally, but hopefully.
yeah. Well, the beginning part of this year was pretty rough, but I think it's certainly better than that. I think
it depends where you are in the world, though, as you say, right?
That's
like
true.
it's so like I know a few people in Australia, and they're like, we're just hiring compers because we need people are getting hired and all this stuff. So whereas before post-COVID, everywhere was kind of uniformly busy.
You're right.
And I think actually, unfortunately for Montreal, because work left there so quick and quicker than I thought. And I think the reason why is because things were slow there in the first place. Basically, it's just not starting up again there, right? I think that's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Whereas if they were mid-show and all this stuff, then it probably wouldn't have been so kind of sudden in regards to companies potentially putting out, which is crazy. Like it's insane and very unfortunate how quick stuff has pulled out of there. Because if you set up your life in that place and then within 2 months, it's like, right, yeah, there's a load of studios.
We definitely saw it with Los Angeles, how quickly it eroded.
Yeah. We've seen it before.
Yeah.
And it's VFX is a moving train. It's like a carnival circus that moves around, and like It's
That's a
unfortunate.
great analogy.
It really is. You're moving with you're going with it. You're either on the train or you're not on the train. It's like you just.
The tax subsidies are in town.
It's unfortunate, especially if you're older and want to have a family and don't want to move around that much and stuff. But in other ways, it is fortunate for people that have the freedom to do that or want to do that. Or it's bringing VFX to a part of the world. Like I lived in Australia in Sydney for a year and a half, and there was basically two companies in Sydney. I mean, there's tons of smaller ones, but two that you could get a visa at. And one was Method, that was that, and the other one was Animal Logic. And there was this like big two that were like powerhouses. And if I remember correctly, like basically both of them, people were just kind of going back and forth, either of them. But they were, they're always on very good behavior, because if you get like blacklisted from one, then like you only have one left. But now it seems like a huge hub with like many choices. And so I guess the point is, for them, it's been a great thing the VFX has come to them basically, and now it's like they're booming.
Well, this is why
choices.
unionization is tricky as well, right? And all this stuff, because it's. But I'd be interested, like, obviously, is there any useful advice? Because obviously, some of your friends probably stayed in LA, right? Like, there's still compers in LA and VFX. So, what advice would you give to people? Let's say they're in Montreal, given your experience with LA and people that stayed in LA, the people that that did well, even though they stayed, and same for Geo, I guess. What did those people do? Because obviously there's going to be some people in Montreal or whatever country that the VFX industry leaves a little bit. How can they kind of keep working?
The people that want to stay or need to stay. I mean, the only thing you can really do is get to a managerial position where you're making decisions. Like you want to be, if you're in LA, you want to be somebody working for the client as a VFX supervisor or something like that, because then you're the one approving the work for the studios that are in LA. I don't know if that works in other places in the world, but like basically, if you're outsourcing stuff, you want to be the person reviewing the outsourced material. I don't know if that makes sense.
I mean, to be honest, it's very similar to like there's a few people in Germany that I worked for, like Michael, I can't remember his last name, and also like Heike, who we'd work with, who are like doing VFX supervising for certain like streaming services, but just for the German productions, right? So you can maybe do that for the Canadian productions or something like that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a more secure position to have. You need to rise up.
There's definitely less of those. So if we're talking on like a bulk level, film is what died in LA. So to directly answer,
commercials would be a good place to do, because there's always need for commercials. Yeah.
My answer would be, like don't limit yourself to film, because the people that did either had to move or do something else. Whereas the people that were working in episodic or commercial ads are still very much employed. Some at the same companies. It's a
really hard question to answer, because if your passion is, I want to work on films and I want to be an artist working on films, I mean, the answer, unfortunately, is probably just to go where the films are being made, which is now Australia, London, other places. So, like, if you want to do that, I guess it just depends on how badly you want to do it and what your life looks like and what you're able to sacrifice.
But it seems like the advice you're giving then is just like accept reality, and like if you want to work on high-end films, you need to move with the traveling circus. If you want to stay where you are, then you need to kind of pivot into whatever industries are still going, which might be episodic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to like put false dreams or anything. Imagine back in the early thousands where they made all the films in LA. There was not even a Canadian kind of like film industry, maybe a couple of them, right? A couple of films. If you wanted to work on films, say you grew up in Spain or something, you have to move to LA because that's where they made the films. So now it's just the reversal of that, where you have to go wherever they make the films. So it's sad for like, imagine, Adrian, you want to work on films, but you live in Spain. Well, it's like you want two different things. Like you either have to live in LA and make the films, or you have to live in Spain and not make films. So like you can't really like wish it into existence. So you have to just deal with the reality of where they're making the stuff. And then if you want to go there, and you have to go there and make the films. If not, then you don't.
It's like a lot more complex than that. It's like, I want to work on film, but I want to have a stable job and I want to be in Madrid. And so in the end, you have to like weigh all your variables and make the decision for where you're aiming for. But there's always compromises, and it's not just location, but so many things.
Like it sounds very negative, but I guess my point is it's always been like that. It's just the location has changed. That's all.
Yeah, I hear. Yeah.
But I think London benefited quite a bit. I mean, I don't know how many films. I mean, obviously they made like Harry Potter and James Bond films and stuff in the past, but like London over the last 15 years has had such a big boom, and it's at the current moment, I think it's doing pretty well in the standings.
So apparently what happened in London is the government allowed them to like claim some other stuff or something. So actually it did help, but it didn't help, because of what I've heard from a few people at different companies is clients were waiting for the new subsidies come in. So they were delaying shoots and productions for the new. So it's like, so it kind of is going to maybe help overall, but maybe like there's a bit of delay on certain productions because of that. And they're waiting for these new things to come in. And again, I always say like something Giacomo, who was on the podcast before, told me is generally you can judge the state of the VFX industry in London. Obviously, this isn't like science, but this was his methodology by what's being shot in the UK, because they would want to keep a certain amount of that work for the VFX to be done here for the So if all your sound stages are booked up, then it's generally a good sign that look over the next 3 or 4 years. And I think I mentioned this before, but all the sound stages are booked up for like 8 or 9 years, right? So it's looking okay in that respect. And I guess it's the same thing with Orca, right? Like you guys at Orca are convincing clients to shoot in your studio, which then gives you a huge advantage for the Spanish scene in general, right? Like if you've got those resources.
Yeah.
Finding that, Adrian?
Yeah, not even the virtual production. That's not something that we are doing too much now. We are going to do some pretty nice things, and I'll discuss later, I think. But what we get a lot of is either clients that went over the maximum tax rebatable amount in some country, and they're looking for a second country where they can access that as well. So we get a lot of that. So there's a lot of shoot going on in the Canary Islands, in Spain. So there's such like a variety of environments and climates and everything here that it's a very attractive location. And it's still Europe. So the Canary Islands is like Europe, but like almost equator. And all of that is like easier to, or some of them need some spend to be done in the same place for VFX as well, or post-production, and then they need to reach thresholds. So there's always some incentives to get like chunks of things. That's helping. I guess the same is happening in other places, but like Canary Islands is like 50%, so it's a lot.
Wow, 50% rebate.
Yep.
Damn.
Yeah, it's quite a lot.
We should shoot a film there, guys. We should go.
Let's go.
I have a couple ideas. If you...
Yes,
good.
Godzilla -2 in Paradise. Let's go. Let's go.
I want to make a couple of shout outs here, like in some of the news that's kind of happened since the last time we've filmed. Adrian, I was listening to a podcast. I think it was like the VFX Talk. The Discord they start putting out videos, and Adrian is getting a big shout out for his Python course. And I just wanted to say congrats. So it's since that's been released, I think a lot of people have been really liking that. And I don't know, have you seen like people enjoying that, or like you probably see the numbers or something? But
it's amazing to see the feedback, and I like that mention. It's Genevieve. He's amazing, super nice, and I had never heard like her talking in a video or anything, and that he's super nice. And yeah, like for me, the best thing is seeing people who followed the course like last year, and now they're making and publishing tools, and sometimes they're mentioning it like, "Hey, this helped me," and I'm seeing the tools, and they're like very nice things. So that for me, that's super nice to see.
Super cool.
But yeah,
nice.
I actually think, Adrian, your course combined with like a ChatGPT membership is the perfect way to learn Python for VFX. Honestly, it really is. Like it's like the perfect combination to like pick this stuff up, because you kindly let me watch take the course, and like if I didn't know the basics of it, I wouldn't have been able to use the AI tools to actually because it needs to be pie-side and this kind of stuff. So like, yeah, I think it's actually a really good time to learn this stuff because you've got like this other thing that can help you. So yeah, and it's super cool. It's really well done. It's really well done.
I wanted to make a shameless plug as well. Sorry, but if you guys are watching this and you're interested in like good VFX material, like Trixter has been putting out like amazing internal videos, and really I have to tip my hat to Alexei. And Alexei is just as people can see, he's just a fun guy. He's really into learning and sharing, and doing this stuff, and he's really at the forefront of this kind of stuff. So I hope we can bring him on at some point if he wants to join and kind of discuss more about it, because he's just a one of a kind person, I think.
Yeah,
let's get him
love
on.
sharing.
Alexei.
I hope. I hope people have been like watching some of them. I have a few, like I think I have like 3 or 4 that I made internally that are gonna come out. I was like showing footage always from like whatever project I was on. So mine are become a little bit more complicated because they need to like blur them or watermark them or something. So,
Oh no, it's just your face pixelated and all the screen pixelated, and you're just talking.
I was always like, well, it's internal, so I might as well show the internal footage and stuff. But you know, we get it greenlit and stuff by clients. So as long as they're greenlit, but yeah, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer. But I can't wait. I can't wait for some of those to come out. I'm excited, and I'm excited that people are like sharing them independently and like kind of discovering them, and it's super fun to see that, because Alexei's always been kind of this, like, you either know him or you don't. Like if you look at comments on Nucopedia, like you'll see like comments on a tool from Alexei from like 10 years ago, like this guy's been around, like he's kind of like shadowy figure. And he's just a mastermind of a lot of this kind of stuff.
The thing I think is a rare combination of skills that he's got is like he's crazy smart, and also he picks stuff up very quickly, and then he's able to turn it in so it's very easily digestible for people like me. Which is great. So which is a weird set of skills, if that makes sense. Like, and I think it's a real. I still think that like the Trixter comp department is probably one of the most technically like creative departments. I mean, you can see that because like stamps came out of it and various other things came out of it. So like you can see that from the outside, but it's because of people like, again, like Ernest, like you, Tony, like Adrian, who was there, and like Alexa, like encouraging that, right? Like,
it's like an environment.
They're not these people that just want the pipeline to stay the same to make their life easier. They're constantly, how can we change and improve this thing?
I mean, Alexei's kind of like a mad scientist of just
I love like
experimenting and implementing things, testing things, feedback loops.
I think he's like, I think he's like our most mentioned person in this podcast. We really need to bring him. What you were mentioning, Josh, he has like, he's super smart and he picks up things super fast, and then he has like this DIY attitude to things, to everything, not just VFX. Like, I'm not sure if I mentioned that, but he was like building his roof on his house based on YouTube tutorials, and we're going to help him, like all of that, and then he just makes it for the plain human. Like, okay, this is what it is, and so it's super nice. And of course, the sharing part, like keeping stuff open for everyone. That's amazing as well.
Yeah.
He definitely blew my mind in 2015, which I'm now realizing is 9 years ago.
Great.
When we worked together in ILM, and he was. It's funny because I didn't know how to use or how to write a menu PY back then, and once he showed me like the basics of it, he just got really. I guess he really enjoyed just sharing stuff, because he'd give me a tool, and then I would just use it, and then he'd be like, "Hey," the next day he'd message me and he'd be like, "Here's another present." And it'd be like something I just wrote, like whatever. And it was like some badass tool. And that included like the original form of stamps, what is now called stamps.
Yeah. Oh man. I'm just proud. I'm just proud of like the team, and now they're getting kind of like the proper kind of, not attention, but like recognition maybe, you know, it's like showing some of our internal stuff and the kind of the ethos that we have. It's really cool to see people like digesting that stuff, and kudos to him, kudos to everyone that's been a part of it and making those cool tutorials and stuff.
But it is amazing. And I think like for those people who haven't ever worked at these big companies, this is the advantage you get, right, of working for these kind of companies, because this is all the knowledge that isn't publicly out there, if that makes sense. I think people don't realize how much information there is that isn't publicly released, if that makes sense. Like, it's crazy. I mean, just the Trixter videos alone, if you knew all of that stuff, you'd be an insanely good comper.
Well, we have to start wrapping up. Actually, the elephant in the room, I never discussed it. I'm wearing a lederhosen.
Oh.
Ew. It's a regular size.
It is the first day. It is the first day of Oktoberfest today in Munich. The first day of Oktoberfest, and I'm gonna go with a friend. We're gonna go right after.
Is there like a German greeting like a happy Oktoberfest or something?
I think it's like
We're gonna need to pixelate it if he does it.
zapped. I forget what it is.
Depends how he says it.
Just Prost. I think you just say Prost. That's the cheers.
Okay. That's just like cheers, right?
Yeah.
Prost.
Yeah.
Tony, didn't you say on a previous episode you like tie a balloon or something so you know where people are? Or they know
Yes, if you're in a big crowd, because the thing is, there's so many people and it's such a chaos. Because at some point, everybody's like standing on these flimsy bench, like because you sit at these long tables with long benches, but somehow they can support like 4 people standing on them, which they really look like they should not, and sometimes they don't. But at some point, you just can't see anything. You're like, where is everybody? And like the journey to the toilet is always like 20 minutes because you got to go find it. You got to walk far. Then you're like, where did I sit again? And so like imagine people are going to the toilet at different times. It's eventually everybody just gets lost and like it's sometimes it's chaos. So
the balloon thing is real. It's not figurative.
No.
Really
one time we did
tie
a balloon. And, like we tied the balloon so that the balloon was at the table, and that was the only way I knew where the table was. Like because the tents are huge, they're very massive.
Cool.
Maybe at the end of this video, I'll take a video with my phone or something. We'll put like a 2-second clip or something of the tent.
It's just someone holding Tony's hair back as he's being sick on the floor. It's just just with the thumbs up.
Have a great time.
Yeah, thank you. Wish me luck. I hope don't get lost. So that's the. But it's a beautiful day out today. So it's sometimes it's rainy and it's cold, but it's a beautiful day today. So you're gonna sit outdoors and stuff. It's gonna be fun day. And the first day is always a good day because people have been waiting a year for it to come back. So it's fun time.
I guess you don't want to like peak too early, right? You want to like pace yourself. How long?
Definitely,
is
yes.
this thing?
You want to last until the end, which is like 10 o'clock at night. I think it ends relatively early, but like you don't want to go too hard. People make a mistake. They go in there and they drink a couple beers as if it's a party that they're going to last until the end of. But if you do that, you're not going to last more than 2 hours.
And then they turn into Japanese salarymen.
Oh, what is that?
It's just like dudes in full suits passing out on benches at like 10, 11 p.m.
Oh, they have this hill. So like the fairgrounds is like a kind of bowl shape with a hill that's a diagonal like hill. And there's one hill where everybody just passes out in their lederhosen and they just leave them there to sleep it off for the night. So there's like at the end of the night, there's just like people.
Is that going to be you?
No, it's not going to be me. I've made the.
Have you really broken your lederhosen in if you haven't passed out in them on a hill yet?
Yeah, good point. I'm gonna roll down the hill on top of all the people.
We need to ask ChatGPT for the optimum Oktoberfest strategy.
Good idea.
That's what we need. How many pints should I be drinking per round?
It's
not pints though, is it? What's the measurement? It's not pint. It's a.
It's a liter. It's a liter of beer.
My God.
I guess that's 2 pints. Yeah, but it's
a liter in a hosen.
No, leather means leather. Later. Yeah, so it's just and hosen means pants. So it literally just means leather pants.
And is this your own custom tailor-made lederhosen, or did you rent?
No. This is the one that I bought right as I got here, like 5-6 years ago or something. I bought one. Yeah, but
amazing, man.
It's built in there. I had to buy the belts and everything. So, anyways.
Does it come with a fedora, or
I have some like really crappy. You can buy really nice ones with like felt hats and like feathers and stuff. And I mean, when you go there, I mean, people sometimes wear these to weddings, but they're like thousands of dollars, like that, like full, like with chains and like little horns like attached to it. It looks pretty. I look like a schmuck, but they're gonna like. This is just one. I have an actual like more authentic like local. From a country town shirt, but I'm just gonna. I felt like wearing red today, so the same as all live bands or whatever.
Well, have a good time, man.
Thanks.
And, keep us updated.
Yeah,
I hope everybody had a good summer.
Let's try to have one next month, and maybe a guest, or we can discuss it. But yeah, we'll meet again. It's been too long, guys. Sorry for the wait. But we
need to send Alexi some cash. Ask him how much.
We're gonna bribe him.
Exactly. How many? Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Get him on.
All right.
So 2 weeks of Oktoberfest, 2 weeks to recover, and then we
It's all right.
Right.
Exactly. All right, guys.
Nice.
Take
All right.
care.
See you guys.